Most people assume burnout is a loud event. We imagine a dramatic exit, a final heated email sent late at night, a slammed door, a public declaration that enough is enough. We are conditioned to look for the explosion, the clear sign that a limit has been reached and crossed. This is the story we often tell ourselves and each other. It is a narrative of sudden fracture, a clean break from a life that was no longer working. It makes for a compelling story, one with a clear beginning, a tumultuous middle, and a decisive end that promises a new start. But that's not what actually stays with us. The real ending often makes no sound at all. Instead, it is a slow, quiet fade. It is the feeling of becoming a little more transparent each day. This kind of ending doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives, settling in like a fine layer of dust on every surface of our inner world. The phone calls get answered, the work gets done, the routines continue, but the person performing these actions is slowly, imperceptibly disappearing from view. The narrative of the loud collapse is a useful fiction. It gives us a sense of control, suggesting that we will know exactly when to walk away. It implies that our breaking point will be obvious. The reality is far more subtle and, for that reason, far more difficult to navigate. The quiet burnout doesn't offer a clear enemy to fight or a single decision to make. It simply becomes the new landscape of our existence. It is the background hum that we eventually stop noticing, even as it drains the energy from everything we do, think, and feel. It is the accumulation of 1,000 tiny concessions, 1,000 moments where we chose duty over delight, obligation over inspiration. Each one felt small and insignificant on its own, a minor compromise. But together, they build a life we no longer recognize as our own. The silence that follows is not peace. It is the sound of absence. It is the space left behind when our own voice has gone quiet for too long, drowned out by the endless demands of a world that never stops asking for more. We are taught to value motion. Progress is measured in steps taken, goals achieved, calendars filled. We learn to equate stillness with stagnation. A pause is seen as a wasted opportunity. A moment of quiet reflection is often labeled as unproductive. This belief is woven deep into the fabric of our modern lives. It is the engine that drives us forward, from one task to the next, one achievement to another. We become so accustomed to the feeling of momentum that we grow uncomfortable in its absence. We mistake the quiet for emptiness, the pause for a failure to launch. So when the burnout finally settles in, its stillness feels like a personal failing. We don't recognize it as a necessary response to an unsustainable pace. Instead, we see it as a problem to be solved, a state of inertia to overcome with more effort, more discipline. We try to restart the engine, to push through the quiet resistance. We tell ourselves to be more resilient, to find a new productivity hack, to just keep going. We treat the deep cellular exhaustion as if it were a simple lack of motivation. We misdiagnose the symptom because we are afraid of what the diagnosis might truly mean for us. But this stillness is not nothing. It is a language. It is the body's way of speaking a truth the mind is not yet ready to hear. It is a quiet, persistent refusal, a refusal to continue participating in a system that depletes our core reserves. This quiet is not empty space. It is filled with information. It holds all the feelings we were too busy to feel, all the insights we were too rushed to notice. It is a protective mechanism, a forced retreat designed to prevent a more catastrophic collapse. The stillness is a form of communication, a message from a deeper part of ourselves that is asking for attention. The great misunderstanding is that we must fight this stillness. We believe we must fill it with noise, with plans, with action. We fear that if we surrender to it, we will be lost completely. But perhaps the opposite is true. Perhaps the only way through is to lean into the quiet, to listen to what it is trying to tell us, to accept the pause not as an ending, but as a necessary transition. A quiet space where the noise of the world finally recedes, and another, more essential rhythm has a chance to be heard, even if only as a faint and distant hum at first. The day begins in the same way it always has. The alarm sounds, a familiar and unwelcome intrusion into the grey light of morning. The motions are automatic, a sequence learned and perfected over years of repetition. Coffee brews, filling the kitchen with a scent that once promised possibility, but now only signals the start of another cycle. The shower, the clothes, the keys in hand. Each step is performed without thought, a muscle memory that carries the body forward while the mind remains adrift. The routine, once a source of comfort and structure, now feels like a cage, its bars invisible but undeniably solid. The commute, once a time for music, podcasts that sparked curiosity, becomes a silent endurance test. You arrive at your desk, but you are not really there. You are a placeholder, a physical presence going through the motions, while the essential part of you remains somewhere else, lost in a fog of detachment and quiet resignation. Meetings become a particular kind of performance. You learn to arrange your face into an expression of engagement. You nod at the appropriate times, but inside there is a profound disconnect. The end of the day offers no real relief, only a different kind of emptiness. The evening unfolds with a similar lack of presence. Dinner is eaten, screens are watched, but the engagement is superficial. The energy required to connect, to feel, to be truly present has been spent elsewhere. The routine has consumed everything, leaving behind a perfectly functional life that feels utterly devoid of the person who is supposed to be living it. Before the mind admits what is happening, the body begins to speak. It uses a language without words, a vocabulary of sensation and symptom. It starts as a whisper, a persistent low-level headache that lingers at the temples, a knot in the shoulder that never quite dissolves. Then the body raises its voice. The whispers become a steady, insistent murmur. Sleep becomes a battlefield. You feel a deep, bone-weary fatigue no coffee can touch. It settles in the muscles and in the very cells of your being. We are conditioned to push through. We are taught the body is a machine to be willed into compliance. So we double down. We call the body's cries weakness, a flaw in productivity. We fail to see the body as an ally, a truth teller. You feel like a stranger in your own skin. Simple illnesses like a cold hit harder and last longer. Your digestive system is in a constant state of low-grade turmoil. They are the body's final, desperate attempt to communicate. The way you are living is no longer sustainable. This is the moment most people stop thinking, spoken softly, intimately. If this feels familiar, stay with me, because this is where the meaning quietly shifts. The real work is not the dramatic act of stopping, but the patient, uncomfortable act of staying stopped. It is willingness to inhabit the quiet space you have created without immediately filling it with a new plan. We often substitute one form of busyness for another. We replace the frantic work schedule with a frantic self-help schedule. We change the content of our activity, but not the underlying pace or need for control. The true deepening begins when we resist this impulse. It begins when we allow the stillness to be just that, still. It requires courage to sit in uncertainty, to not have the answers. We are not trained to listen, to wait, to allow an answer to emerge from deeper than our anxious thoughts. This is the quiet deepening. Less about a new system, more about cultivating a new relationship with ourselves. A relationship not based on performance, productivity, external validation. A relationship founded on listening, turning inward and asking gentle questions. What do I need right now in this moment? What is my body telling me? What feels true, even if inconvenient? This is not passive. It is active, engaged, and deeply intentional. Attending to the self, a practice many are only beginning to learn. Imagine your life has been a ship built for speed, constantly sailing in a vast, demanding ocean. Burnout is the moment you realize the ship is taking on water. The quiet break is the decision to drop anchor. It is not about abandoning the ship. It is a simple, deliberate choice to stop, to let the ship rest in the water, to allow the frantic motion to cease. The stillness serves a purpose. It allows you to finally assess the damage. You cannot see these things clearly when the ship is in frantic motion. The anchor holds you in place, providing a stable point from which to begin the real work. It is about taking stock, making small essential repairs, and allowing the crew to rest. Once the anchor is dropped and a measure of stillness has been claimed, the question becomes, what now? The old map has been discarded. The new map unfolds slowly. It starts with a simple question, asked without pressure. What feels good right now? Not what is productive or what is expected, but what genuinely feels nourishing. You are a cartographer of your own inner landscape. The map that begins to emerge is not a straight line. It is a map of a personal rhythm, not a corporate ladder. The quiet break is not just a pause between two destinations. It is the journey itself. It is the slow, deliberate process of letting go of the old map and allowing a new one that leads back to yourself, to gently unfold. The journey does not end with a neat conclusion. But after the 90 days, after the initial period of rest and recalibration, life continues. The world does not stop its spinning. The demands do not vanish entirely. The pressures, both external and internal, will inevitably return. The work of maintaining this new, quieter rhythm is not a one-time project, but a continuous, lifelong practice of awareness and choice. The practice, then, is not one of perfect adherence, but of gentle return. It is a quiet cycle of straying and returning, of losing the rhythm and patiently finding it again. Each time we return, we strengthen the muscle of self-awareness. It is the unglamorous day-to-day work of tending to our own well-being, accepting that balance is not a static state to be achieved, but a dynamic process of constant adjustment. And so, we are left with a single, unresolved question that lingers long after the quiet has settled. How do we honor the quiet rhythm we have found, even when the world around us begins to play its loud, demanding music once more? If this stayed with you, there's another reflection on this channel that continues the conversation.